Welcome to a journey deep into Japan's ancient past, to a time before agriculture, before metal tools, and before written records. A time when people lived in harmony with nature, celebrated seasons, honored the unseen world, and created breathtaking art, all without cities or kings. We're talking about the Jomon people, the early inhabitants of the Japanese archipelago, whose unique culture stretched from around 14,000 BCE to 300 BCE. Today, we'll explore their lifestyle, beliefs, art, food, and legacy, one section at a time. Let's begin. The Jomon culture is one of the world's oldest known continuous cultures. The name Jomon means cord-marked, referring to the patterns pressed into their pottery using twisted cords. These ancient people lived in small forest communities, building pit dwellings near rivers and the sea. They were primarily hunter-gatherers, but their way of life was anything but primitive. Their culture reflected a deep relationship with nature, a sense of community and spiritual awareness. From their tools and homes to their rituals and pottery, everything they created showed thought, skill, and intention. It's fascinating to think, thousands of years before cities rose in other parts of the world, the Jomon people were already living in well-organized villages, creating symbolic art and honoring the spirits. Nature wasn't just a setting for the Jomon, it was central to their existence. They believed in animism, the idea that all things, animals, trees, rivers, rocks, have a spirit. The Jomon people respected nature deeply, treating it not as a resource to be used, but as a living partner in their survival. They fished in rivers, hunted in forests, and gathered seasonal plants and nuts. But they did so with care and gratitude. Rituals were likely performed before hunts or harvests to thank or ask permission from nature's spirits. Their lifestyle followed the rhythm of the seasons. They knew when to gather, when to fish, when to preserve food. This seasonal understanding shaped their culture into one of balance, patience, and respect for the natural world. In many ways, the Jomon were the original environmentalists. When we think of prehistoric people, we don't often imagine artists, but the Jomon were incredibly skilled craftsmen. Their pottery is among the oldest in the world, and it's not just functional, it's beautiful. Using rope or cord, they created detailed textures and swirling patterns on clay pots. Some were used for cooking or storage, but others were ceremonial, possibly used in rituals. Then there are the dogū figurines, small clay statues, often of human or spiritual figures. With large eyes, decorated bodies, and symbolic shapes, these figures were likely used in rituals related to fertility, healing, or protection. Stone tools, bone ornaments, and shell accessories also show a culture that valued both function and beauty. For the Jomon, art wasn't separate from life. It was woven into everyday living. Spiritual beliefs and ritual practices. The Jomon people lived in a world filled with spirit and mystery. Their spirituality was rooted in nature, shaped by the belief that everything around them was alive. They had no temples, but the natural world was their sacred space. Fire circles, stone arrangements, and special gathering spots may have been used for ceremonies. The dogū figurines we mentioned earlier likely held spiritual power, used in rituals for protection or healing. Burials were meaningful. The dead were carefully placed in graves, sometimes with tools, ornaments, and pottery, suggesting they believed in an afterlife or spiritual journey. Their rituals were likely communal, marking the change of seasons, celebrating successful hunts, or calling upon spirits for help and guidance. Spirituality wasn't something separate, it was part of daily life. Every act, from cooking to carving, was done with awareness of the spiritual. The Jomon people were masters of foraging, hunting, and fishing. Their diet was rich and varied, including chestnuts, acorns, wild berries, roots, fish, shellfish, deer, boar, and birds. They used stone tools, bone hooks, and even built weirs to trap fish. They dried, smoked, and stored food, often in clay pots or underground pits, allowing them to survive the winters. But food was more than survival. It was social. It was spiritual. Feasts were likely held during seasonal changes or after successful hunts. Food was shared, stories were told, and bonds were strengthened. The way they prepared and consumed food reflected their respect for the gifts of nature and their sense of community. Jomon villages were built near rivers and forests. Their homes, pit dwellings, were dug slightly into the earth with wooden frames and thatched roofs. This design kept them warm in winter and cool in summer. Communities were tight-knit. People shared responsibilities: hunting, gathering, cooking, crafting, and ritual practices. Elders likely played an important role in passing down knowledge and traditions. Rituals and seasonal celebrations brought everyone together. Storytelling, music, dancing, and shared meals helped keep their cultural memory alive. Despite having no kings or rulers, the Jomon people lived in organized, cooperative societies, bonded by shared beliefs and mutual respect. Around 300 BCE, a major cultural shift began with the arrival of the Yayoi people. They brought rice farming, bronze tools, and social hierarchies. While the Jomon people were hunter-gatherers, the Yayoi were agriculturalists. They built larger settlements, developed more defined social classes, and produced metal tools. The Yayoi culture laid the foundation for early Japanese statehood, but the transition also marked the end of the Jomon way of life. However, the influence of the Jomon didn't disappear. Many of their beliefs, art forms, and traditions quietly continued, blending into Japanese culture over centuries. Their story didn't end, it evolved. Archaeological discoveries and legacy. Thanks to decades of excavation, we've uncovered a treasure trove of Jomon artifacts, from pottery and tools to entire villages. One of the most famous sites is Sane Maruyama in Aomori Prefecture. Here, archaeologists found longhouses, pit dwellings, storage pits, and ceremonial structures, giving us a clear window into how the Jomon lived. Other sites reveal stone circles, shell mounds, and ritual areas, helping us understand their daily lives and spiritual beliefs. These discoveries show that the Jomon people weren't just survivors. They were innovators, artists, and thinkers. And today, their artifacts are preserved in museums. Their patterns inspire modern designers, and their story is taught as a foundational part of Japanese heritage. Why the Jomon culture still matters today. The world today moves fast. Cities grow, technology changes rapidly, and we often feel disconnected from nature and each other. But the Jomon people offer us a different model. A way of life rooted in harmony, balance, and meaning. A society that respected the land, valued community, and honored the unseen forces of the world. Their pottery reminds us that beauty can come from simple things. Their rituals show the power of belief and connection. Their sustainable living shows us how to take only what we need. In the end, the Jomon culture teaches us this. You don't need kings or castles to create something lasting. You just need values. You need respect for nature. You need art. And above all, you need community. Thank you for listening to this journey into the culture of the Jomon people. If this story made you think about nature, about art, or about how we live, then maybe the Jomon legacy is still alive in us. Don't forget to follow or share this if you love history, culture, and stories that connect us to our roots.